Jake Morrison stood in the massive chamber of the Galactic Council Station. The room was huge, bigger than any building on Earth. Strange sounds filled the air as dozens of alien species talked in their own languages. Machines translated their words into sounds that Jake could understand, but the delay made everything feel slow and awkward. Jake represented humanity in this place. He was the only human among 47 different alien species. Each species had their own special chair, or platform designed for their bodies. Jake sat in a simple metal chair that looked plain compared to the floating crystals and biopods that other species used. The station orbited around Centauri Prime, a planet that belonged to no one. It was supposed to be neutral ground, where all species could meet safely. Through the giant windows, Jake could see the planet below. It looked peaceful, covered in blue oceans and white clouds. High Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrians floated above his crystal platform. His body was made of pure energy that shifted between different colors. The Zephyrians thought they were the smartest species in the galaxy. They had learned to control energy itself and could live for thousands of years. Vextar often spoke about how advanced his people were compared to everyone else. Warcast Thurok sat on a metal throne covered in spikes. He was from the Korax Empire, a species that looked like giant lizards with thick armor covering their bodies. The Korax had conquered 12 star systems through war. They respected only strength and viewed diplomacy as weakness. Thurok's red eyes glowed as he watched the other species with barely hidden contempt. Archon Zillith spoke for the ethereal collective. Her body was transparent, like a ghost made of light. The ethereals claimed they had moved beyond physical form long ago. They said they existed on a higher level of reality that other species could not understand. Zillith rarely spoke directly, preferring to communicate through mysterious riddles and half-finished sentences. Jake had been coming to these meetings for 3 years now. Every week, the council gathered to discuss trade agreements, territorial disputes, and scientific discoveries. Humanity was still new to this galactic community. First contact had happened only 15 years ago, when a Zephyrian exploration ship detected Earth's radio signals. The other species treated humans like children who had just learned to walk. They smiled politely when Jake spoke, but he could see the amusement in their eyes. To them, humanity was a primitive species that had barely figured out how to leave their home planet. Today, Jake had come with an important request. The human colony on Kepler 442b was in serious trouble. The planet's geology was unstable, causing massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. 50,000 human settlers were in danger. They needed advanced technology to stabilize the planet's core, technology that only the council species possessed. Jake waited for his turn to speak. The council was currently debating a trade dispute between two minor species. The argument had been going on for an hour, with each side presenting evidence that contradicted the other. Finally, the session moderator called for Jake to present his request. Jake stood up and activated his translator device. "Honored members of the council," he began, "I come before you today to request assistance for our colony on Kepler 442b. Our people are facing a natural disaster that threatens their lives. We need help with planetary stabilization technology." He explained the situation in detail. The colony had been established 5 years ago as humanity's first attempt at terraforming a distant world. Everything had gone well at first, but recent seismic activity suggested that the planet's core was becoming unstable. Human scientists had tried everything they could think of, but their technology was not advanced enough to solve the problem. "We are willing to offer trade agreements, scientific cooperation, or cultural exchange in return for this assistance," Jake continued. "Our people's lives depend on your help." The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then High Chancellor Vextar began to laugh. The sound was like wind chimes in a hurricane, beautiful but disturbing. "Oh, how amusing," Vextar said, his energy form rippling with colors that Jake's translator indicated meant mockery. "The young humans want to play with dangerous toys they do not understand." Warcast Thurok's laugh was a deep rumble that made the floor vibrate. "Your species discovered fire yesterday, and now you think you can reshape worlds. Perhaps you should stick to simpler tasks, like learning not to poison your own planet." Archon Zilith's ghostly form flickered as she spoke. "The path of wisdom requires patience, young ones. Your species has existed for mere moments in the cosmic scale. Perhaps several more millennia of evolution will prepare you for such undertakings." Other council members joined in with their own comments. The Aquatic Syndicate representative suggested that humans should abandon space colonization entirely. The Silicon Commonwealth delegate recommended that humanity focus on basic agriculture before attempting terraforming. Even the usually neutral Verdanian Union seemed to find the situation amusing. "Your terraforming methods are so primitive," Vextar continued. "Chemical explosives and mechanical drills. How quaint. You might as well be using stone tools to perform surgery." Jake felt his face burning with embarrassment and anger, but he kept his expression calm. He had been trained in diplomatic protocol. Showing emotion would only make things worse. "Furthermore," Thurok added, "your military cannot even protect a single colony. What happens when real threats emerge? Will you come crying to the council every time you face a challenge?" "The universe is vast and dangerous," Zilith said in her mysterious way. "Those who venture forth without proper preparation often find only death among the stars." Jake listened to their mockery for several more minutes. Every species seemed to have something to say about humanity's limitations. They spoke about humans like parents discussing a child who had broken an expensive toy. Finally, the session moderator called for order. "The council has heard your request, Ambassador Morrison. Do you have anything else to add?" Jake stood up again. His jaw was tight, but his voice remained steady. "I understand the council's position. Humanity withdraws its request for assistance." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small communication device. With careful movements, he typed a short message. "Protocol 7 authorized. Begin Phase 1 immediately." The message was encrypted using codes that no council species had ever seen. It would be transmitted to Earth through quantum entanglement, arriving instantly despite the vast distance. "If there is nothing else," Jake said to the council, "I will return to my duties." High Chancellor Vextar waved a dismissive hand made of pure energy. "Run along, little human. Perhaps next time you will bring us a problem more suited to your capabilities." Jake walked out of the chamber with dignity, ignoring the continued laughter and comments from the council members. Behind him, the various species returned to their regular business, already forgetting about the human request. None of them noticed the small smile that crossed Jake's face as he left the chamber. None of them realized that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. The game had begun, and humanity was already several moves ahead. 3 days after the council meeting, Captain Lisa Rodriguez received an encrypted message on her ship. She was commanding the human exploration vessel Enterprise 3, currently docked at Zephyrian Station Alpha 7. The message was short but clear. "Begin immediate withdrawal. All projects terminated. Return to Earth space." Lisa had been working with Zephyrian scientists for 8 months. They were studying ancient ruins on a dead planet in the Vega system. The ruins were millions of years old, left behind by a species that had vanished long before any current civilization existed. The Zephyrians believed the ruins contained advanced technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization. The project leader was Dr. Kev Nock, a Zephyrian energy being who had been alive for over 3,000 years. He considered Lisa a promising student, even though he often made jokes about human limitations. When Lisa told him she had to leave immediately, Kevnock was confused. "But we are so close to a breakthrough," Kevnock said, his energy form shifting to colors that indicated frustration. "The next excavation site shows promising energy readings. Your human intuition has been surprisingly useful in identifying potential dig sites." Lisa felt bad about lying to him. "I'm sorry, Dr. Kevnock. We're having technical difficulties with our ship's life support systems. I need to return to Earth for repairs." Kevnock's form flickered with concern. "Perhaps our engineers could assist you. Zephyrian technology is far more advanced than your current systems." "Thank you, but Earth Command insists on handling this internally," Lisa replied. "Human pride, you know how it is." Kevnock laughed, a sound like musical notes dancing in the air. "Yes, your species does seem remarkably stubborn about accepting help. Very well, Captain Rodriguez. Safe travels, and please return quickly. The ruins will not reveal their secrets without your unique perspective." Lisa gathered her crew and departed within hours. As the Enterprise 3 left Zephyrian space, she uploaded all their research data to hidden servers that only humans could access. The Zephyrians would never know that human scientists had been secretly scanning their equipment and recording their research methods throughout the entire project. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Dr. Ben Parker was working at the prestigious Corax Institute of Xenobiology, studying dangerous alien diseases that could wipe out entire planets. The Corax had invited him because humans seemed to have unusual resistance to many biological threats. What they didn't know was that Ben had been secretly sampling every pathogen in their collection dot when Ben announced he was leaving. Warcast Thurok's personal scientist, General Kazak, was genuinely surprised. "Your work here has been exceptional, Dr. Parker. You have identified 3 new treatment methods that our own scientists missed. Why would you abandon such important research?" Ben packed his equipment carefully. "Budget cuts back on Earth. I'm being reassigned to agricultural research." He made it sound boring and disappointing. General Kazak's armored face showed what might have been sympathy. "How unfortunate. Your government does not appreciate the value of scientific advancement. Perhaps you could request a transfer to Corax citizenship. We would welcome a researcher of your capabilities." "That's very kind," Ben said, "but I have family obligations on Earth. You understand?" Kazak nodded slowly. "Family bonds are important, even among primitive species. Perhaps especially among primitive species." Ben smiled and shook Kazak's clawed hand. As he left the Institute, he carried with him detailed genetic samples of every biological weapon in the Corax arsenal, plus complete technical specifications of their biocontainment systems. Across the galaxy, hundreds of similar withdrawals began. Human traders stopped coming to alien markets. Human students left universities and research institutions. Human tourists canceled their travel plans. Cultural exchange programs were quietly terminated. Scientific collaboration projects were abandoned. At first, the alien species barely noticed. Humans had never been major players in galactic affairs. Anyway, if they wanted to isolate themselves, that was their choice. Some species even found it amusing that humans were acting like children, having a tantrum. Ambassador Jake Morrison made formal announcements to each species individually. He submitted official withdrawal notices from every committee, every research project, every diplomatic initiative that involved humans. When asked for explanations, he gave vague answers about internal restructuring and resource reallocation. Hi. Chancellor Vextar received Jake in his private office, a chamber filled with floating crystals that pulsed with different colors. "This withdrawal seems rather extreme, Ambassador Morrison. Surely your government is not abandoning all galactic cooperation over one denied request?" Jake sat calmly in his simple chair. The decision comes from the highest levels of human government. Chancellor, we need to focus on internal development for the foreseeable future. How long is the foreseeable future? Vexstar asked. That depends on many factors, Jake replied. Our analysts are still studying the situation. Vexstar energy form shifted to colors that indicated mild concern. The Zephyrian Republic values its relationship with humanity. Perhaps we could discuss alternative forms of assistance for your colony situation. Jake shook his head. Thank you, but we've decided to handle our problems internally. We appreciate the Zephyrian Republic's past cooperation. After Jake left, Vexstar contacted several other council members. Warcast Thurok was dismissive of the human withdrawal. Good riddance. They were taking up space in meetings anyway. Let them crawl back to their single planet and leave galactic affairs to their betters. Archon Zilith was more thoughtful. The patterns of fate shift in mysterious ways. Perhaps this withdrawal serves purposes we do not yet understand. You always speak in riddles, Thurok complained. The humans are having an emotional reaction to being told the truth about their limitations. They will come back when they need something. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. On Earth, President Helen Carter was meeting with people whose existence was known to very few humans. In a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, she activated systems that had been waiting for 15 years. Prometheus Initiative is now active. She announced to the group of figures seated around a metal table. All assets are to begin Phase 1 operations immediately. Admiral Jack Stone nodded from his position at the table. Our fleet is ready, Madam President. We've been preparing for this day since first contact. Dr. Alex Chun opened a thick folder filled with photographs and documents. Our embedded assets are in position. We have operatives in key positions throughout Zephyrian, Corax, and ethereal space. They've been building cover identities for years. President Carter looked at each person in the room. 15 years ago, we learned we were not alone in the universe. We also learned that the other children on the playground were bullies. Today, we begin teaching them why that was a mistake. The meeting lasted for hours. Plans that had been theoretical for years were now being put into action. Supply ships that had been disguised as garbage haulers began moving to secret bases. Scientists who had been studying alien technology in hidden laboratories received new orders. Sleeper agents who had been living as aliens for years got coded messages telling them to prepare for activation. On Kepler 442b, the human colonists received a different message. The geological instability that had threatened their lives suddenly stopped. Hidden machines that had been causing the earthquakes shut down. The entire crisis had been artificially created as a test to see how the Galactic Council would respond to human distress. Colony. Administrator Paul Jenkins looked at the seismic readings with satisfaction. The test is complete. All systems are stable. Begin Phase 2 construction immediately. Deep beneath the colony's surface, massive construction machines began working. They were building something that no other species knew was possible. The humans had been busy during their 15 years in galactic society, and they had learned much more than anyone realized. Trade agreements were allowed to expire without renewal. Human merchant ships stopped visiting alien ports. Communication. Traffic between Earth and the rest of the galaxy dropped to almost nothing. To outside observers, it looked like humanity was simply giving up on galactic civilization. But in the hidden spaces between the stars, human ships were moving with purposes that no alien scanner could detect. They used technology that shouldn't exist, following flight plans that led to coordinates not found on any galactic chart. The withdrawal was complete, and the real work could finally begin. 3 months had passed since humanity's withdrawal from galactic affairs. At first, life continued normally for the other species. Trade flowed, Research progressed, and diplomatic meetings proceeded without interruption. The absence of humans was barely noticeable in the vast scope of galactic civilization. Then the problems began. The first incident happened at Mining Station Omega-12 in the Outer Rim. The station processed rare elements needed for faster-than-light engines, supplying materials to half the galaxy. Station manager Volktar, a Zephyrian energy being, was reviewing daily production reports when every computer system on the station suddenly crashed. "What is happening?" Volktar demanded as his technicians scrambled to restore power to critical systems. Chief Engineer Mordek frantically worked at his control panel. "All our computers are infected with some kind of virus. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. The code seems to be rewriting itself faster than our security systems can respond. The virus spread through the station's network like a living thing. It corrupted shipping schedules, scrambled inventory records, and crashed the automated mining equipment. Within hours, the entire operation ground to a halt. Thousands of ships waiting for cargo deliveries were stranded throughout the galaxy." "Can you trace the source of the attack?" Volktar asked. Mordek shook his head. "The virus appears to have originated from inside our own systems. But that's impossible. Our security protocols would have prevented any external intrusion." The station's communication array was among the last systems to fail. Before it went dark, Volktar managed to send a distress signal to the Galactic Council. But the signal was garbled and incomplete, making it impossible to determine exactly what had happened. While the Zephyrians struggled with their mining crisis, Warcast Thurak was dealing with his own problems. His flagship, the massive dreadnought Conquest, suffered a catastrophic engine failure during routine patrol maneuvers in Korak space. "Report!" Thurak roared as alarms blared throughout the ship's bridge. "Engineering." Chief Krax checked his displays with growing confusion. "Lord Thurak, our main engine core has shut down completely. All backup systems are also offline. We're dead in space." Thurak's red eyes glowed with fury. "How is this possible? The Conquest was just overhauled last month. Every system was certified." "Perfect. That's what makes this so strange," Krax replied. "The engines didn't break down. They received shutdown commands from our own bridge systems, but no one here gave those commands. The investigation revealed that someone with full command authorization had sent engine shutdown orders from Thurak's own command station. The biometric logs showed that Thurak himself had entered the commands, even though he had no memory of doing so. Security cameras showed him sitting at his station, entering the shutdown sequence with his own claws. "This is impossible," Thurak growled. "I would never sabotage my own ship." It took 3 weeks to repair the Conquest and get it moving again. During that time, the Rogue's fleet was scattered across Korak space, trying to maintain order without their flagship's command and control systems. Similar mysterious failures began happening throughout Zephyrian space. Power grids experienced random fluctuations that their best engineers couldn't explain. Energy distribution networks that had worked perfectly for centuries suddenly developed fault patterns that seemed to follow no logical sequence. Dr. Sevalon, the Zephyrian Republic's chief technology officer, studied the failure reports with growing alarm. "These problems appear to be connected, but I cannot identify the common factor. Each failure follows different technical pathways, yet they all result in the same type of system shutdown." High Chancellor Vextar energy form shifted to dark colors indicating deep concern. "Could this be some form of coordinated attack? If so, it would require intimate knowledge of our most secure systems," Sevalon replied. "Only Zephyrian engineers have access to these networks, but all our people have been accounted for." The ethereal collective faced different, but equally disturbing problems. Their transcendent consciousness, which normally allowed them to perceive events across vast distances, began experiencing strange blind spots. Archon Zilith found herself unable to sense entire regions of space that had previously been clear to her perception. The cosmic awareness grows dim in certain quadrants, she told her fellow ethereals during their quantum meditation gathering. It is as if portions of reality have been veiled from our sight. Elder Asterix, the oldest of their kind, pulsed with confused energy patterns. This should not be possible. Our consciousness exists beyond physical limitations. No material force should be able to block our perception. Yet something does, Zilith replied, and the blocked regions are expanding. Meanwhile, automated systems throughout council space began behaving erratically. Banking networks that managed interstellar commerce started processing transactions incorrectly. Resource distribution computers assigned cargo shipments to wrong destinations. Even the simple administrative systems that scheduled council meetings began generating corrupted data. The most disturbing incident occurred when Ambassador Kellen of the Verdanian Union tried to contact Earth for a routine diplomatic check-in. The Verdanians had always maintained friendly relations with humanity and were concerned about the extended silence. Open a communication channel to Earth, Kellen instructed his communications officer. Yes, Ambassador, the officer replied, working at his console. After several minutes, he looked up with confusion. Sir, I cannot establish contact with any human facility. Their communication networks appear to be completely offline. Kellen was puzzled. Try the human embassy on Centauri Prime. No response. Sir, I've tried all known human communication frequencies. There's nothing but silence. Worried about a possible disaster, Kellen requested permission from the Council to send a search mission to human space. The Council approved, authorizing a joint task force to investigate the situation. The search ships found something that chilled every crew member who witnessed it. Human colonies were empty but undamaged. Cities stood intact with lights still burning, but no people walked the streets. Orbital platforms continued their automated functions, but their crews had vanished. Ships drifted silent through space, their life support systems still running, but their corridors emptied. Captain Jorvik of the Korax survey vessel Reaper examined the abandoned human colony on Kepler 442b. There are no signs of struggle, no evidence of evacuation, no bodies. It's as if every human simply disappeared at the same moment. His science officer, Dr. Lana Kellax, studied the readings from her instruments. Sir, this is very strange. According to these scans, the colony's population vanished exactly 96 days ago. That's precisely when humanity announced their withdrawal from galactic affairs. Are you suggesting they planned this? Jorvik asked. I don't know what I'm suggesting, Dr. Kellax replied. But 60 billion humans don't just disappear without a trace. This level of coordination would require technology and planning far beyond what we believed humans possessed. The search teams found data storage devices in human facilities, but everyone was encrypted with codes that resisted all attempts at decryption. The encryption was more sophisticated than anything the Council species had seen before. Even the ethereal collective's quantum consciousness could not penetrate the coded information. Back on the Council station, High Chancellor Vextar convened an emergency session. Representatives from every major species gathered to discuss the mysterious human disappearance and the growing technical problems throughout their civilizations. The evidence suggests these events are connected, Vextar announced to the assembled delegates. The timing is too precise to be coincidental. Warcast Thurok slammed his armored fist on his platform. If the humans are responsible for these attacks, it's an act of war. I say we hunt them down and make them pay. Hunt them down where? Asked Ambassador Kellen. They've vanished completely. Our best scouts can't find any trace of human activity anywhere in the galaxy. Archon Zilith's ghostly form flickered as she spoke. The patterns of existence have shifted. The humans walk paths that our perception cannot follow. They have become shadows moving through reality itself. Dr. Sevalon presented his technical analysis to the council. If humans are responsible for our system failures, they would need access to our most secure networks. They would need detailed knowledge of our infrastructure, our security protocols, our technical specifications. The level of infiltration required would be extraordinary. Vextar energy form pulsed with growing realization. 15 years. They have been among us for 15 years, learning our technology, studying our systems, gaining our trust. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every species began thinking about the humans who had worked in their research facilities, served on their ships, studied at their universities. Humans who had seemed harmless and primitive now appeared in a very different light. The silence stretched until Thurok broke it with a growl. If they think they can threaten the Korax Empire, they will learn the price of challenging superior species. But, as the council meeting continued, each species received reports of new system failures, new mysterious problems, new signs that their technological civilization was under attack by an enemy they could not find or fight. 6 months into the silence, galactic civilization was collapsing piece by piece. What had started as isolated technical problems had grown into a system-wide crisis that threatened every aspect of Sci-Fi. Interstellar society, Warcast Thurok stood in his private command center aboard the rebuilt Conquest, studying intelligence reports that made his blood run cold. His most trusted security chief, Admiral Korvac, had just delivered the worst news possible. "My lord," Admiral Korvac said, his voice steady despite the gravity of his report, "our most classified military databases have been compromised. Someone has copied our entire strategic weapons catalog, including the locations of every hidden weapons cache in Korax space." Thurok's massive clawed hands gripped the edges of his command table hard enough to leave marks in the metal. "How is this possible? Those databases are protected by quantum encryption. Only the highest-ranking Korax officials have access. That's what makes this so disturbing," Korvac replied. "The security logs show that you personally authorized the data transfers, using your own command codes and biometric verification." Thurok's red eyes blazed with fury. "I authorized nothing. I've been on the bridge for the past week, monitored by dozens of crew members. How could I have accessed systems in the secure vaults?" Admiral Korvac activated a holographic display that showed security camera footage from the weapons database facility. The image clearly showed Thurok walking through the facility, entering his personal access codes, and downloading classified information onto portable storage devices. "This footage shows you accessing Vault 7 4 days ago," Korvac explained. "But according to the bridge logs, you were in a strategy meeting with your senior staff at exactly the same time." Thurok stared at the footage in disbelief. The figure in the recording moved like him, spoke like him, even had the same battle scars on his armor. But Thurok had no memory of being in that vault. "Run a biological scan on that recording," Thurok ordered. "Check everything. DNA patterns, cellular structure, neural activity signatures." The analysis took several hours. When the results came back, they were impossible to understand. The figure in the recording was genetically identical to Thurok in every measurable way. Even the most advanced Korax medical scanners could detect no difference between the real Thurok and the one in the footage. "Sir," the medical technician reported nervously, "according to our instruments, both subjects are equally real. I cannot determine which one is the original." Similar discoveries were happening throughout Korax space. Trusted officers were being found in multiple places at once. Security footage showed the same individual performing different tasks in different locations at the same time. Military secrets that had been protected for generations were disappearing from systems that should have been impossible to breach. High Chancellor Vextar was dealing with equally disturbing revelations in Zephyrian territory. His personal advisor, Dr. Zekelin, had served him faithfully for over a century. Vextar trusted him completely, which made the discovery even more shocking. Chancellor, Security Chief Pavlon announced during an emergency meeting, "We have confirmed that Dr. Zekelin has been transmitting our energy grid specifications to unknown recipients for the past 5 years." Vextar's energy form flickered with disbelief. "That's impossible. Jilin has been with me since before the humans even knew about galactic civilization. He's one of my oldest friends." "The transmission logs are clear," Pavlon replied. "Every major system update, every security protocol change, every technical innovation, all of it has been copied and sent to coordinates we cannot trace." Dr. Zekelin was brought before Vextar for questioning. His energy pattern showed no signs of deception, no indication that he was anything other than the loyal advisor Vextar had known for decades. "Zekelin," Vextar said, his voice heavy with disappointment, "why did you betray our people?" Dr. Zekelin's energy form pulsed with genuine confusion. "Betray? Chancellor, I don't understand. I have never transmitted any information to unauthorized parties. I would never compromise Zephyrian security." The interrogation continued for hours. Dr. Zekelin passed every test for truthfulness. His memory patterns showed no gaps, no signs of manipulation. Yet the transmission logs proved that he had systematically copied every piece of sensitive information that crossed his desk. "It's as if someone else was using his identity," Pavlon concluded. "But our quantum signature scanners show that he's definitely the real Dr. Zekelin." The crisis reached its peak during an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from every major species had gathered to coordinate their response to what was clearly a coordinated attack on their civilizations. High Chancellor Vextar addressed the assembly. "Fellow council members, we face an unprecedented threat. Our most secure systems have been compromised, our military secrets have been stolen, and our trusted officials have been revealed as security risks." Warcast Thurak stood to speak. "The evidence points to human involvement, but we cannot locate any humans to interrogate. They have vanished like ghosts, yet their influence continues to plague our societies." Ambassador Kellen of the Verdanian Union raised a concern that had been troubling him. "I've been reviewing the records of human involvement in our various projects. In every case, the humans seemed genuinely helpful and cooperative. They showed no signs of hostile intent." "Perhaps that was their greatest deception," suggested Dr. Sevalon. "They appeared harmless while systematically learning everything about our technologies and security measures." Archon Zillith's ghostly form shimmered as she spoke. "The veil of illusion is profound. We see truth where lies exist, and lies where truth hides. The humans have mastered the art of being invisible while standing in plain sight." As the debate continued, Admiral Korvac entered the chamber. He walked calmly to the center of the room, ignoring the surprised looks from the various delegates. No Korax officer should have been able to enter the council chamber without permission. "Admiral Korvac," Thurak rumbled, "what are you doing here?" "I did not authorize your presence." Admiral Korvac smiled, an expression that looked strange on his reptilian features. "You're quite right, Warcast Thurak. You didn't authorize my presence here." Something in his tone made every delegate in the chamber suddenly alert. Korvac's voice sounded different, more confident, carrying an accent that didn't match his usual speech patterns. "In fact," Korvac continued, "Warcast Thurak has never authorized any of my actions. He has no idea what I've been doing for the past 5 years." Korvac reached up and touched something behind his left ear. His reptilian features began to shift and change, scales retracting, bone structure reforming, skin tone lightening. Within moments, The proud Corax admiral had transformed into a human woman with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. The transformation was impossible. No known technology could alter biological structure so completely. Yet the evidence was undeniable. A human had been living among the Corax for years, perfectly mimicking their appearance and behavior. "My name is Admiral Kate Sullivan," the woman announced to the stunned council. "For the past 5 years, I have served as Warcast Thurok's most trusted advisor. During that time, I have learned everything about Corax military capabilities, strategic planning, and security protocols." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages, their translators struggling to keep up with the rapid exchanges. Security forces from every species began moving toward their weapons, only to discover that their equipment had been mysteriously disabled. Admiral Sullivan continued speaking as if nothing unusual was happening. "Throughout this chamber there are others like me, humans who have spent years learning about your societies, your technologies, your weaknesses. We have been your trusted advisors, your research partners, your friends." High Chancellor Vextar Energy Form blazed with fury. "How many of you are there? How long have you been planning this infiltration?" "We began planning 15 years ago," Sullivan replied calmly, "the moment we learned that galactic civilization existed. We studied your histories, your cultures, your technologies. We identified your vulnerabilities and positioned ourselves to exploit them when necessary." Dr. Zekelin, who had been standing near Vextar, suddenly spoke in a completely different voice. The energy grid infiltration was particularly challenging. Zephyrian quantum signatures are difficult to replicate perfectly. He too began to transform, his energy form shifting from the familiar patterns of Dr. Zekelin to something entirely different. When the change was complete, a human man with dark hair and green eyes stood where the Zephian advisor had been. "Dr. Robert Chun," he introduced, himself theoretical physicist and specialist in energy manipulation. "I've enjoyed working with Zephyrian technology for the past 7 years." More transformations began occurring throughout the chamber. Trusted advisors, security chiefs, and technical specialists revealed themselves to be humans and sophisticated. Disguises. Each transformation brought gasps of shock and outrage from the remaining genuine delegates. Admiral Sullivan waited for the chaos to quiet down before continuing. "You want to know why we revealed ourselves now? Because the infiltration phase is complete. We have learned everything we need to know about your civilizations, your military capabilities." The council chamber had fallen completely silent. The assembled delegates stared at Admiral Sullivan and the other revealed human agents, their minds struggling to process the magnitude of what they had just learned. Outside the massive windows, the human fleet hung in space like silent predators, their advanced ships making the Council's defense forces look primitive by comparison. Admiral Sullivan walked to the center of the chamber, her calm demeanor more unsettling than any display of anger would have been. The transformation from respected Corax admiral to human operative had shattered every assumption the Council had held about their security and intelligence capabilities. "For 15 years, Sullivan began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems, humanity has been playing a game that none of you realized had started. While you saw us as primitive newcomers stumbling through galactic politics, we were conducting the most comprehensive intelligence operation in galactic history." High Chancellor Vextar Energy Form flickered with desperate fury. "What do you want? Revenge for our refusal to help your colony? This seems like an extreme response to wounded pride." Dr. Robert Chun, who had spent 7 years masquerading as the Zephyrian advisor Dr. Zekelin, laughed quietly. "You still don't understand. The colony crisis on Kepler 442b was artificially created. We caused the geological instability ourselves as a test to see how the Council would respond to human distress. Warcast Thurok's clawed hands gripped his armrests hard enough to crack the metal. You staged the entire situation? The terraforming. Equipment that you called primitive? Sullivan continued. It was deliberately obsolete technology that we allowed you to see. Our real terraforming capabilities far exceed anything any council species possesses. The geological crisis was generated by matter manipulation devices that your scientists didn't know existed. She activated a holographic display that showed technical specifications for human technology. The assembled delegates gasped as they saw designs that made their most advanced systems look like simple tools. While your species spent thousands of years developing along predictable technological paths, humanity took a different approach, Sullivan explained. We studied every piece of alien technology we encountered, reverse engineered it, improved it, and integrated it with our own innovations. Ambassador Kellen of the Verdanian Union, one of the few species that had always treated humans with respect, spoke with obvious distress. But why this deception? We could have been partners. We could have worked together. Dr. Chun answered him. Because the council made it clear that you saw humanity as inferior. You wanted us to be grateful for scraps of knowledge while you hoarded the truly important technologies. You expected us to accept a subordinate role in galactic civilization. Forever. Sullivan gestured toward the windows where the human fleet waited. Humanity learned long ago that the universe is not kind to species that rely on the mercy of others. On Earth, we spent millions of years as both hunters and hunted. We learned that survival requires preparation, patience, and the willingness to do whatever is necessary when the time comes. Admiral Jack Stone materialized in the chamber through a matter transporter that should have been impossible to operate. Through the station's shields. He wore the uniform of a human fleet admiral, his presence adding weight to Sullivan's words. The Galactic Council has a choice to make, Stone announced. You can accept the new reality, or you can fight it. But understand that fighting will only demonstrate how complete our victory already is. Stone activated his own holographic display, showing real-time status reports from across the galaxy. Every major military installation was compromised. Every communication network was under human control. Every economic system was frozen pending human authorization to resume operations. Your defense fleets are dead in space, Stone continued. Your communication arrays broadcast only what we allow. Your bank systems contain only the data we permit them to access. Every AI system that manages your infrastructure has been quietly reprogrammed over the past 5 years. Warcast Thurok stood from his throne, his massive form radiating barely controlled rage. You think technology alone makes you superior? The Korax Empire has conquered 12 star systems through strength and courage. We do not surrender to cowards who hide behind tricks and deception. Admiral Sullivan smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. Warcast Thurok, your empire exists because we allow it to exist. Your fleets move because we permit them to function. Your weapons fire because we choose not to disable them. She touched a control on her wrist. Throughout Korax space, every military vessel suddenly lost power. Weapon systems shut down, engines went offline, and life support systems switched to emergency backup power. The entire Korax war machine had been neutered in seconds. Your strength was always an illusion, Sullivan continued, as the power was restored just as quickly as it had been removed. We could have ended your empire at any time over the past 5 years. We allowed you to maintain your pride because it served our purposes. Archon Zilith's ghostly form flickered with what might have been resignation. The ethereal collective perceives the truth of your words. The patterns of fate have been guided by human hands for longer than we realized. Your species has mastered the art of invisible influence. The ethereal collective was actually the most challenging to infiltrate, Dr. Chan admitted. Your quantum consciousness doesn't rely on physical form, which made traditional disguises useless. We had to develop quantum manipulation technology that could mimic your energy signatures directly. High Chancellor Vexstar energy form had dimmed to barely visible levels. What are your terms? What do you want from us? Admiral Stone stepped forward to present humanity's demands. The Galactic Council as it currently exists will be dissolved. A new governing body will be established with humanity as the controlling authority. All advanced technologies previously denied to humans will be shared immediately. Full access to all scientific research, all historical records, all technical databases. Furthermore, Sullivan added, every species will provide full reparations for the years of condescension and deliberate obstruction of human advancement. These reparations will take the form of resources, technology, and labor as determined by human administrators. Warcast Thurok's voice was a furious growl. And if we refuse these demands? Admiral Stone's expression was calm, but his words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Then we will demonstrate why refusing is not an option. The holographic display changed to show human fleets positioned throughout the galaxy. Not just the ships visible around the Council Station, but thousands of vessels that had been hidden in locations no other species had known existed. They surrounded every major world, every important facility, every critical piece of infrastructure in galactic civilization. We could shut down every artificial gravity generator in Council space, Stone explained. We could disable every atmospheric processor on every colonized world. We could crash every computer system that manages food distribution, medical care, or waste recycling. Billions would die not from direct attack, but from the simple failure of the systems they depend on for survival. But we don't want to be mass murderers, Sullivan said. We want to be the rulers of a functioning galactic civilization. Your species can continue to exist, to prosper even, under human leadership. You'll simply do so knowing your place in the hierarchy. Ambassador Kellen raised a trembling hand. You said we had a choice. What choice is there when the alternative is extinction? Dr. Chon answered him gently. The choice is whether you accept this transition gracefully or whether you force us to demonstrate our capabilities more directly. We prefer cooperation to coercion, but we're prepared for either option. The chamber fell silent again as the delegates absorbed the reality of their situation. Everything they had believed about galactic power structures had been revealed as a illusion. The species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers had been controlling events from the shadows for years. High Chancellor Vexstar spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. The Zephyrian Republic accepts your terms. One by one, the other delegates voiced their acceptance. Even Warcast Thurok, after a long moment of internal struggle, growled his agreement. They had no real choice. Humanity had demonstrated that. Resistance was not only futile, but potentially catastrophic. Admiral Sullivan nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. The transition will begin immediately. Human administrators will be taking control of all critical systems within the next 72 hours. Detailed instructions for the new governmental structure will be distributed to all species representatives. Ambassador Jake Morrison entered the chamber, his diplomatic demeanor replaced by the confident bearing of someone whose long-term plans had finally come to fruition. He was no longer humanity's humble representative begging for scraps of assistance. He was the architect of the greatest political revolution in galactic history. Distinguished former council members, Morrison said, I want you to understand something important. Humanity didn't seek this outcome. We would have been content to work as equals within the existing galactic structure. But your mockery and dismissal forced us to demonstrate why that was a mistake.